Hey everybody, it's number 5. Tip number 5. The topic is choosing a top business motivational speaker. And how do you do that? Well, there's a whole bunch of things you need to look at, but today's topic is humor. Is your speaker funny? Is that important? And how do you think about that? Well, the first one is, yeah, you want a funny speaker. I'm telling you, regardless of what your meeting is about, whether or not you're talking about really heavy topics, or it's more of a celebration and a client appreciation event or something like that, you want someone who makes the audience laugh. Audiences crave this. I'm telling you, if you ask them, do you want to watch a straight speaker or a funny speaker? They're always going to say funny speaker, as long as both speakers deliver the goods. So let's talk about that. First thing you want to think about is, are they really funny? It sounds obvious, but I swear I've been there and a meeting planner says, I didn't really think this person is funny. Let's see how they do. Why did you book them? Now, when you're thinking about whether or not they're funny, there's a couple things to think about. Some people are funny, but they might not be your cup of tea. And that's very different from somebody who just plain isn't funny. Let's talk about late night hosts. Some people like Jimmy Fallon, some people like Jimmy Kimmel. That doesn't mean the other person is not funny. The other person is amazingly funny. They're so good, they have a late night show. They might not be your cup of tea. So sometimes working with a committee is really important, meaning this person might not be my cup of tea with their sense of humor, but they are killing it and people love it. That'll come out in a committee meeting. Let me tell you a story about me as a young person under the category of are they funny? So I started out as a magician, and I learned pretty quick, wow, it seems like the market books more comedians than magicians. I guess I better tell people I'm a comedian. So way before I had worked clubs, and way before I had worked cruise ships, and way before I had earned the right to say, yes, I can strategically be funny on purpose no matter what, I just told people I'm a comedy magician. How crazy is that? That didn't make me funnier. And I want you to look out for that. When it says on a website, this person is witty and he has a great sense of humor, if you don't see it in their videos, well, they're not funny and they're just saying, I think I'm supposed to be funny. So watch for that. Are they funny? Now let's talk about appropriate. They got to be funny, but not get you in trouble with HR, right? And yes, this happens, even at the corporate level. So here's another story. A very famous comedian who is known to work filthy. She's got a ton of fans. She was hired to work a corporate group. It's a tech company. I can't tell you who they are, but I can tell you they had 3 initials. Anyway, they put her up there, and sure enough, she was doing her material. And eventually the president or the HR person or someone freaked out, and then the meeting planner got in trouble, and they had to go yank her off the stage, which was embarrassing. And also they didn't have anything to fill up the next hour. It was a problem. To me, that was crazy because I never asked her, do you work clean? She would have said no. Plus, you can check this because there's video. In this particular case, that woman is such a big comic. Video is everywhere, and she's never worked in corporate safe. I can't believe they didn't check. I think they were furious at the comic. I just think it was negligence on the part of the meeting staff. This woman would never claim to be clean. But once you're in the clean zone, there's a few more questions. Like, how comfortable are you working clean? Let me explain. I have been there at meetings with comics who mostly have worked clubs. Like, you know, if 95% of their work is in clubs, the rules are different in a club. You can make jokes about things you can't make. I mean, stuff that doesn't even feel edgy in a club is really edgy in a business setting. So you want someone who's used to working clean, because those comics struggle. I've watched them do it. They start telling a story. Maybe they're talking about fishing, and they're like, oh, this is clean. Fishing, that's a clean story. Well, then you kind of see them panic. And I think what's happening is they're realizing, this story ends with the F-bomb. That was integral to the story. And we talk a little bit about some gender issues or whatever. And then you see them try to bail out of that premise, and they don't do it very gracefully. And then they're trying to get in a new one, and now they're off their timing. That's why I think you want a speaker who not just can work clean, but does work clean. In my case, I don't have stories that are dirty. If you hire me, I don't have to say, well, okay, I can't tell those 4 stories, because I just don't have any stories that I can't tell everywhere. I can tell them around your grandma and your kids and everyone in between. I can tell them on TV, and I can definitely tell them from a corporate stage. Ask your potential speaker, are they funny? And can they prove it? Ask them if they're appropriate. What are their thoughts about that? And can they prove it? When you're talking about choosing a speaker and you're thinking about humor, one of the things you want to talk about is it just humor or is it balanced with content? Unless you're hiring somebody to be a comedian, you want a funny speaker who can balance with content. So that means, is the mix between entertainment and wisdom, entertainment and content, entertainment and ROI, is that the mix that you're looking for? That's a fair question. It's totally reasonable to say, well, all right, you said you're funny and I can see it on the videos, but like what percentage do you do versus which is just funny versus content? Is it 10% kind of just as a sprinkling of humor to make sure that everything else goes down well? Or is it half? And that way you can go think about it and decide exactly what you're after. In my case, if you say, what percentage funny are you? I'm going to say, what do you want? Because I'm an entertainer. I can go 100% comedy, or I can do less, 10% or something like that. Ask your speaker. All right. One last thing I want to address, and that is, don't be afraid to bring humor into heavy topics. And I'm going to give a very specific example. Through a weird series of events, I sort of got known in the hospice and palliative care world. I've done a lot of speaking for people who work in hospice and palliative care. They're working with sick and dying people. What could be heavier than that? Well, I joke about all of those things with them because they're desperate for it. It turns out people who have those tough jobs, firemen, cops, probation officers, emergency room nurses, hospice care workers, they have a dark sense of humor that they use to stay sane. So that means I work really hard with a client to know ahead of time, tell me all about that, so I come in prepared. And then I'm able to sort of ask permission to the audience and say, can we agree to tell some jokes in here about this heavy topic that we would never want outside of this room? That means there's a balance, isn't there? That means I'm telling you stuff that would be inappropriate for other audiences is totally appropriate for hospice workers, for first responders, for emergency room nurses, because we want it to be tailored, we want to be sensitive, and appropriate is a moving target, isn't it? That means I'm never going to go with gender and religion and politics and sex, regardless, but definitely I can make, and I can and should make different jokes to a room full of probation officers than I would for a room full of accountants. Got it? You know that, right? It's common sense. All right, if you're looking for a top motivational business speaker, I hope you'll look me up. My name is Brad Montgomery, bradmontgomery.com. I'm funny. This is something you want. Yeah, you want humor. Yeah, you want funny, but they got to be appropriate and they got to balance it with content in a way that serves you and your meeting and makes you look like the rock star meeting planner that you are. All right, give us a call. Can't wait to talk to you about these topics and more. It's going to be fun.